Okay, hello everybody, and welcome back to the UniqueFemme Podcast. I'm so excited today. We have Sheila O'Donovan, and I'm so excited to get chatting with her today. She is a leadership and growth coach, registered psychotherapist, art therapist, accredited family mediator with over 30 years of experience, really helping individuals and families heal, grow, reconnect. Sheila and I have our own beautiful story that we'll be able to share with you today. She also is the creator of Fuck the Game, Transform, Thrive, and Connect, and Bloom with Grace. So programs that really empower women to break patterns, rise above limitations, and lead their lives with clarity and compassion. Hi, Sheila. Thank you so
Hi.
much for coming and joining me today. Thank you. What an honor.
Thank you, Cynthia, for inviting me. It's an honor to be here. Thank you so much.
Yes. Okay, so let's jump in because there's a lot of actually really fun transitions happening in your own career in terms of your offerings, and we'll get into that a little bit later. But um, one thing we can start with is even just how we met. So I met you when I was going through quite a time in my life. I was experiencing a separation. I wanted to know how to better support my kids,
Right.
and so I found you, and so Sheila had the honor or I had the honor of working with Sheila as I was navigating a really difficult time in my life, and you were able to really guide me through my own emotions, but also to better support my kids. And so it was just a beautiful journey. And now here we are kind of in the coaching world together, which is it's just so cool
It's
to be
amazing.
part of your world in a different way now.
Yeah, Cynthia. And I am incredibly excited for you. And you are just doing so well. And I'm so happy for you that you've created this because I know that this is really where you wanted to be.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean, what and you were also there when I experienced my accident. So you've been part of my
Yeah,
life for a very long time, and now to be kind of in the same scene is just so cool and such an honor. So
it
I'm
is.
so excited for you to share your magic today because what you do is really incredible, and I know that lately you've been taking it to the next level. Um
Yes.
Something I would love to talk about is let's just go actually right into your story maybe, and then we can go
Okay.
into something that I know that we see eye to eye on in terms of healing, growth, and all these things. But maybe you could share your story of why you went into psychotherapy, art therapy specifically, even mediation, because I'm sure, a lot of women listen to this podcast who may be experiencing a separation or may have kids or may so this is, yes, this podcast is for business and thriving, but like we want to really support you in all aspects of your life. So maybe you can share a little bit of your story.
Okay, perfect, perfect. So I grew up in London, Ontario, just outside of London, and I come from a family of four sisters and a mom and a dad, and I'm in the middle. So I share that because I think, with those dynamics kind of growing up and just with friends and whatnot, I feel, especially in a friend capacity, I think I was in a role of really helping people out and just really
Mm,
wanting you listen to people's stories and to be able to kind of mediate in a way that you do as a friend. And so as I was exploring, I took my psychology degree and then I was wondering, where do I go from here? And I hadn't actually heard about art therapy. And then I heard there was an art therapy program at the University of Western Ontario. And I applied for that program. At the same time, I applied to teach ESL overseas, and I
mm,
actually got those 2 acceptances in the same week, and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna travel." And then people are like, "Well, wait a minute, like, not a lot of people really get into this program. Maybe it's something you should explore." And so I did, and I'm so, so grateful that I did because
mm,
art therapy has I just been a huge part of my professional career, and I've seen the transformation that it takes people on, in their therapeutic journey.
mhm,
Um, and so you don't have to have artistic background to do that, but there is artistic threads throughout my family. So my mom was an artist, my sister is really creative. Now my daughter is very artistic, but the neat thing about the art therapy is you don't necessarily have to be an artist to do it. So that was for me, you go through the process when you're in the program of doing some visual art courses and doing your own art therapy. And I just really saw the value of the art therapy because then my parents were separating at the time when I was in that
Mm.
program.
Oh,
So they
wow.
had been married for 33 years and then they were going through a separation. And so my wonderful supervisor, I think definitely saw me and tapped into where do I need to go with Sheila and how can she learn through this?
Mm.
And I utilized some of that supervision for exploring my own feelings about my parents' separation, which then led into me in my practice really focusing on that area,
Wow.
focusing on the area of separation and divorce. And so I just naturally kind of fell into that. And then the community started to hear, this is what Sheila does. She works with families that are separating. She works with children to help them be able to work through what their parents are going through.
Mhm. Wow, how beautiful. And then that led to you then becoming a meteor. So it's so interesting that, one thing kind of leads to another. And I think that even the sense of business, it's remembering that you don't have to have it all figured out. Like you've gone from, you were like,
That's
okay, maybe I'll try psychology and then, this art therapy. And wow, now I can apply it to my own life. And so let me narrow in here. And I just love that natural progression, and I think that that's something that's really important to mention and to kind of note that the natural progression happens and just to allow it without needing to know exactly what the end vision is.
exactly. As you go through the journey of doing what you do, then other things come up, right? Where the mediation became a natural next step because I was doing a lot of parenting plans for high conflict families or families in general. And I had some encouragements from some family lawyers that I work with and said, like, you're really essentially already doing this. I think you'd be a really good fit for this. And I would be called to court as an expert witness. And so, um, there were times where I was in a mediation role, and so it was just a natural fit, and so I found that when I was in that program, it made sense to me that marrying these 2 things together, was made perfect sense to be part of
Yeah.
my practice.
I have a question about that actually because, obviously, what I focus on the most is nervous system regulation and
Right.
feeling safe in our bodies. I mean, that's high pressure to be a mediator, to be that in between because there are a lot of emotions. I imagine you're kind of stepping in the middle of chaos. How do you support yourself? Because this is, I work with a lot of women who are going into different spaces where they're the space holders or they're the ones kind of supporting others, and it can become quite overwhelming for your own nervous system. So what how do you support yourself and your nervous system through those moments?
Yeah, and that's been a learning curve, right? That's been a learning curve for me through 30 years about how I would support myself now versus when I did at the beginning, because of course we learn along the way. And what I've learned specifically through the art therapy as well is that, and you definitely know all about this, is that the body keeps the score
Yep,
essentially,
that's
right?
right.
And so learning how do we connect those 2 things together. So I've been a big proponent of therapy throughout since the time my parents were separating to now, recognizing that it's really important to get that support. So I definitely did some talk therapy, and then throughout my own journey, because I've also gone through a separation myself, I tapped into other modalities such as EMDR, really believing in body work, did some EFT. And so I will I will utilize those things, journaling, just drawing as well myself and getting support when I need to in order to be able to ground myself because it
Yeah.
can feel really heavy. So it's important that we debrief and we have supportive colleagues that we can do that with and just taking time for ourselves to be able to really fill our own buckets.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you said that and you mentioned just so many different tools. It's like fill your toolbox, maybe some EMDR, some talk therapy, some EFT tapping, some expressive writing, whatever it is, finding, your support team and your support tools to help you navigate or like you said debrief. I love that word specifically for
Right.
this and I think that's where also finding your community and a coach or a mentor to be able to say just to say, "Wow, this is what happened. I just need to get it out," and have somebody understand what that feels like or validate. Um,
Absolutely.
so I
Absolutely.
I that's so powerful. Mhm.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think too, going through my own journey of being in a relationship for 20 years and having two beautiful daughters, and then realizing, I never wanted to have my own separation because when you go through that I was a young adult when my parents separated, but I didn't want my kids to have to go through that.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
but then you get to a point, I think it's sometimes in our 30s and our 40s where if we everything bubbles up if we haven't really,
Yeah.
dealt with it. And then it's like, how do I want to live the rest of my life, the other half of my life? And so it was a really big decision for me to say, I don't think I can do it the way that I'm doing it anymore. And so
Mhm.
getting that support at that time, that's when I did the EMDR, and I'm a huge proponent of it now, being on the other side of the couch per se,
Mhm.
and realizing I just wow, like what it tapped into and the things that came up for me. You think you're going there to talk about your own separation, but it was actually stuff about what my parents had gone through. And so that's the beauty of tapping into those parts of your brain that you don't necessarily access when you do talk therapy. And there's lots of validity in talk therapy, but I think when we can integrate both, it's just so powerful. And
Mhm.
that's again where the art therapy is just such a powerful modality because it integrates, the body, the mind, creativity. And so you're not just relying on the verbal dialogue, but you're accessing the right side of your brain where all that stuff is stored. And so I love that. I think that the community, the therapeutic community, the coaching community is more attuned just to the connection between both the verbal and the nonverbal.
Mhm. I love that. I love everything you just said because obviously for me that was something that was
Yeah.
very helpful, and I did talk therapy, and it was very helpful, and there's definitely a place for it, but when we can also, for me, I always say, like, we just have to get the body on board, and how can we get
Yeah.
the body on board, and how can and like you said, if we're wanting to reach, the bottom of the iceberg and really get to those subconscious beliefs or whatever it is that's coming up, sometimes we need a body-based tool to be able to reach it and close that
Right.
loop, so I love literally everything you just said because I was like, "Yes, yeah," like, if you're just listening, I'm just sitting here nodding like, "Oh my goodness." I'm cheering over here, but so maybe we can go straight into the art therapy because
Yeah.
and it maybe you could explain to us because I mean,
Okay.
before we jumped on, I said, "Sheila, like, this is a bottom-up approach, right?" And
Right.
you were like, "Yes." So and that's my thing. I love all things bottom-up approach. So and as an artist, I have a deep respect for, even if it's movement
Right.
for me,
Yes.
storytelling through movement has been incredibly healing. You were there when I created my Cleanse Heal bookend show and how healing that felt for me. So maybe you can
Yes.
explain to us how does art therapy, work? What is it? How does it work? And what can
Yeah.
you tell us about art therapy?
Perfect. Perfect. So we know, so it's a form of psychotherapy
Mm,
that utilizes the creative process as a pathway for expression, for insight, for healing. So it taps into our unconscious material, which allows us to process complex emotions, like I said, in a way that might be difficult to express in words alone. And so
mhm,
that through drawing, through painting, collage, through sculpture, so it's rooted in psychological theory, and it should be done through a registered art therapist. That doesn't mean like creating art is inherently therapeutic. So it doesn't mean other people can't draw, can't do, collage or sculpture. But when you're taking people through a process for a therapeutic process, utilizing an art therapist is really important because we've been
mhm,
trained to be able to tap into the parts that maybe other people that have not been trained in that area do. So,
Mhm.
it for example, I might say, so down at the Family Law Information Center at the courthouse in London, and it might not still be there, but if it is, you can check this drawing out. It was a drawing that I said to a child, draw for me how it feels for you, your parents' divorce feels for you. And he drew this big monster, and this monster was holding him in his hand. And there's
Mm,
no way that I would be able to get that from saying, like, how does it feel for you? Will it feel sad? I don't like it. But that it's the whole cliche, a picture paints a thousand words. The art therapy, like the things that I've seen that have come out of it are incredible, because by witnessing that drawing, it really told me just how big and how heavy this was for this child.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. 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 That's just so incredible.
Yeah. So the artwork becomes a reflection of the inner world, right? And it serves as a starting point for the therapeutic exploration, but it also becomes the process where you can put it out so into a concrete format, and then you can put it away. So, you often then put it into a folder, and then you have it to reflect back on. And then it's also, here was my starting point, and here's where I've ended. So you can see your progression visually through the artwork that you've created, which is also really powerful. I've had people sometimes revisit me again after years and say, I was looking at that drawing that I did when I was with you, and gosh, like how I felt then and how much I've grown and what that looks like. And so one technique might be draw where you were, where you are, where you hope to be. And just the power that comes out of those drawings, it helps the client too to be able to see some of their goals and some of the progression that they've made over the course of time that they've done the art therapy.
I love this so much. I was listening to this the other day about, how we really are beings that take in the world visually, and that's why visualization is so powerful. Your body almost doesn't know the difference when we're sitting there visualizing something. So is that kind of one of the key components for that? It's that, like, it's this visualization aspect when we're taking it in visually, we're putting it out visually. There's something different that happens with that.
There's something different that happens with that, because when we're talking, it's the left side of our brain. So that's for processing, understanding. And the right side of our brain is where all our sensory experiences are stored. And then when you write and draw, or you dance, or if you think about anything sensory, you're tapping into the right side of your brain. So you're getting at emotions, complex emotions in a different way, and you're accessing emotions that maybe you didn't realize that needed to come out, because you're utilizing the creative modalities, you're utilizing your sensory experiences in order to do that. So when we
Mhm.
think about trauma, we know that trauma is a sensory experience, right? That often triggers are based on our senses. And so if you think about the art therapy and it's tapping into that part of your brain, just the power of being able to help people resolve and work through their trauma through a creative process can do that in ways that can't always get there when we're just talking about it.
I love that. Something, um, that sometimes we'll talk about is expressive writing, and I would
Yeah.
imagine it's
Right.
it's maybe somewhat similar, I'm not sure, but say somebody is like, "Okay, one of our listeners or even myself, I say, "You know what? I wanna kind of play with this a little bit on my own," or yes, absolutely get, connected with somebody, and we'll leave Sheila's, information if you ever wanna reach out, but say somebody goes, "You know what? I just wanna play with this a little bit on my own, maybe in the mornings, it's a practice that I have, expressive writing or drawing." How would you lead them? Like, what would be kind of the first steps, and how could somebody lead themselves through that process?
So you may know of this book, a really great book called The Artist's Way. And The
Mm,
Artist's Way is about doing morning pages where you just write, you do free flow writing in the mornings, and whatever comes out's intended to come out. And that can be the same. So I'll talk to people about doing journaling, and just if it's about, like, think about three things that you might be grateful, and writing that down, or draw some things that you might be grateful for, or draw some things where you're maybe feeling that you're stuck and you want to get to. And and then continue to do that maybe each day. And it doesn't have to be like a drawing journal can be, I had a really great day and something awesome happened for me today. And it doesn't have to always be about the really tough stuff. But what will come out in our drawings is what's intended to come out. And that's with the free flowing writing as well. So just allow yourself to be able to sit and write. And that's tapping into the right side of the brain. Allow yourself to sit and just draw. And whatever comes out is intended to come out. And that's part of the art therapy process too, because people, mainly adults, will get like, "Oh, I haven't drawn in a long time," and
That's me. Right now, I'm like, "Oh my god," drawing almost gives me anxiety because I think for me it's almost triggering. Because I kid you not, and I know people are like, "Oh, I'm not good at this." Like, I'll say, "I'm good at dance, not great at singing, cannot draw." Like, that part of my brain is just my son, Mateo, is incredible. He's gifted. He got all of the drawing qualities, none of them from me. And that's okay. So what about somebody who's like, "Oh my god, I don't I wouldn't even know what to draw." And I imagine maybe it becomes more abstract, but what would you say to that
right.
person who's like, "I I can't draw. I don't
Yeah,
know what to draw."
and that is really, really common with adults. So at like play and art are just second languages for kids, right? They just naturally, but then we sadly we grow out of that, and then we how do we tap back into that? Because it would be like I have adults saying like I haven't drawn in years and I'm not an artist, and I'll say, you know what? I'm not an artist either, but you know, it's okay. It's how whatever comes out's intended to come out. Sometimes it might just start as yeah, like something abstract. Just start drawing lines or think about a symbol about how you're feeling today and draw what you think that symbol looks like or a color or a feelings. There's some like amazing work through my Fuck the Game program that I've seen women do about how they're feeling, and it's abstract. It's pastels, it's colors on the page, but it when you see it again, it speaks volumes to, oh, okay, this really tells me about how you're feeling. And then they verbalize, they walk me through it through verbalization about how they're feeling. And so sometimes it is just about sitting down and being abstract or just trying it out, think about a symbol about how you feel today and what would that be and draw it out. It doesn't have to look perfect.
Mhm. I love that. I love that. Yeah, because I think one of it is some people just naturally like that's not something maybe they're naturally good at, but there's
Right.
that whole aspect that we've then probably told that child like one, drawing's not important, or two, you're not
Yeah.
good at it. And I think that I probably experienced both of those things. But what I find so interesting about art, and actually we talked about this at the last Unique Femme retreat. We were talking
Okay.
about how, you know, kids, I think that they did studies and they want to see like who's considered a genius and in terms of their creativity, like a creative genius. And I think they said like 98% of kids when they did this study are geniuses, and they were like, and the last 2% probably just were having a bad day. Whereas when they did
Yeah.
with adults, maybe it was like 5%. And
Right.
the numbers might be like a little bit off, but kids lose their genius because of our systems that we have in place
Yeah.
and the conditioning that we have. So I think it's a
Right.
beautiful way to honor, I would say, and correct me if I'm wrong, but also like your inner child, like bring that play
Oh,
back
yeah.
into those
Yeah.
conversations.
Absolutely, and I've seen some really powerful things come out of I was working with this one young woman who was an amazing artist. What when we tapped into her trauma, her past trauma for when she was younger, her drawings, there was a huge regression in her drawings, and it looked
Mhm.
like a child had drawn it. And so that in itself was just showing, okay, when you do the trauma work, you see regression even in the artwork. Because I knew this woman was very, very capable, like an incredible artist. But that was her inner child came out in the artwork. And she was surprised too. She was really surprised, like that that's what came out.
Mhm.
So the inner child work with writing, with drawing is something I utilize a lot and have utilized a lot throughout the years with my clients and with my adult clients. draw a picture of your inner child, draw a picture of yourself now, and how would you like to embrace that inner child? What are the words you'd like to say? What are the actions? And so those can be really powerful drawings as well.
Yeah, wow, how powerful. And in the past year, I've been doing a lot of inner child work,
Okay.
and whew, it's some really deep, beautiful, and
Yeah.
sometimes, difficult work, but I think
Yeah.
it's
Yep.
interesting how thinking of those experiences just brings our body right back there, and we get and a beautiful thing I think is that we get to connect back to that inner child and give her a voice. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah.
wow.
Yeah. It's very powerful work.
Mhm, yeah, okay, so now, I know that you have your practice, but you also have 2, I think. Is it 2 coaching programs? Or is it 1?
I it is 2 coaching programs, and essentially they're similar, but they're a little bit different. So I lived in London for most of my life, and then I went through my separation, and then I, started putting out to the universe, like, bring me somebody who's gonna love me the way that I love them, someone that sees me, understands me,
Mm.
uh, and I
Okay, wait.
just
Is that
yeah, yeah,
about your program? 'Cause I'm like, can we talk more about that? Because I think,
well,
a
yeah,
lot of having been through my own separation as well,
right, right,
and, I've had a beautiful journey, but that's something that a lot of women are actually in my circle are really going through. It's their
yeah.
separations or they're thinking about it or whatever it is. And so I would love to know your journey on how because you did find love and you were married again, I believe. And
Yes, yes,
so
yeah.
and
So
that's
it's
goals.
yeah, okay. So it does lead to that. So it leads to, like, how did I end up having this program? How did I end up and the content of that program. So right. So I just had that light bulb go on where I was like, I really need to do something different here. I need to live a different life and take a different journey, as painful
Mm,
as that might be. And that was all the right stuff, even though it was really, really tough decision to make. I made that decision. And then I started, like I said, I started putting it out to the universe, bring me someone that's going to love me the way I love them, someone who understands me, sees me. And then one day I laugh at this now, but then one day I'm like, okay, this just isn't happening. And, maybe I'm just not intended for that. And then about 2 weeks later, I met Scott,
hmm.
who's my husband now and who's my soulmate and just an incredible person. But then that had me moving to California because that's where he's from. And so I've been in California for about almost 6 years now, and I've done mediation here. And then I started to embark on because I love the work, the private work the private practice work that I do. I love working with families. And then what I found is where I was really drawn to is working with women, like going through my own experience and then working with women and seeing so many women who were going through a separation. So all the clients that I worked with through mediation and through therapy, like the common thread of women really feeling like stuck or feeling like, how can I find love again? Is this over for me? What is it that I want? How can I be my authentic self? And so I thought, you know what? I really want to work with, and I love men, they're amazing, but I really want to focus on helping women to be able to know, you know what? You can go through a separation. You can find happiness, whether that's on your own or that is with a partner. But I do feel we're hardwired for connection. And so
Mm,
a lot of people want to be in relationship. But first and foremost, how do we become in relationship with ourselves? Because that's really what I had to learn. It took me a long time, and I needed to learn, what is it, Sheila, that you want and that you need? What are your needs? How did you meet them? How did you, essentially manifest this person into your life? But it was through doing my own work that really led me to be able to realize and accept love and to be loved in the way that I want to be loved.
wow.
So then, Fuck the Game came out of really talking with some some women and some like all generations, 20s up to people in their 70s, who talk about dating now because it's tough. It's tough out there. It's different. Lots of online, all of this stuff. So
Oh, yeah.
some of the games that we play, right? And so I remember saying to a girlfriend, like, fuck the game, like just text him. And then I was like, you know what? I think this would be a really good program. I think a
Oh
lot of
my
women,
god, I love that.
yeah. So I created that program and started marketing that program and really drew in some amazing women internationally, that could it really resonated with them, my own story, and then just their feeling of, yeah, like I want to get to authentic self, authentic relationships, because authenticity isn't about performing realness, right? It's allowing who you truly are to lead the way. And that looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
So what's authentic for me might be authentic for somebody else. So for one person, it might mean I want to speak up for the first time, or I want to learn to pause before I react. So there's no universal formula to authenticity, right? It's about tuning in rather than fitting in. And so I thought, let's do this program. And so that program is running and still existing. And then I thought Bloom with Grace, it's similar, but it's different in that it's not just about relationship building. It is about tapping more into, for ourselves, who is it that you want to be, what's standing in your way, and how to get unstuck. And
Mm.
so that's what led me to kind of essentially starting over in a way, as a coach, because it's similar to therapy but different. And so that's where it's landed me. So that's a long explanation about
Wow, that's a
kind of where
beautiful
I've landed.
explanation. I have so many questions. Okay, because we have incredible women listening into this, and probably some men. So like, or
Yeah,
whoever, it doesn't matter. Live your best life.
right,
But
right.
can you? I don't know how comfortable you feel sharing some of the things that you did between kind of the separation, and that you would suggest to your clients to do, and then being able to manifest like your dream partner, because it,
Yeah,
you know, it's such a difficult it is difficult to go from having somebody to then being kind of on your own, and it's very hard
right.
to let go of that companionship. And so what would you say to that person, and what are some of the things that you really did that you could suggest to somebody who may be going through something similar?
Okay, so I feel that we can't be authentic with, well, for me, okay, I couldn't be authentic where we don't feel safe. And that doesn't mean I wasn't safe in my environment, but safe. How do I create an internal and relational safety for myself? So part of
Mm.
that is about learning that it's okay to be seen,
Hmm.
learning that it's okay to take up space, learning to not edit ourselves for approval. So I think it's about really getting to know yourself on a level of what does get in my way. And I think being a caregiver, being in a field of helping, sometimes we put our needs at the bottom of the list.
Mhm.
And so I think I needed to learn about all the things that I was teaching people. So you've got to walk your talk. And it's not that I never did it, but I think I feel like I lost myself in a lot of ways about giving a lot of myself to other people to help them and not giving it to myself.
Mm, mhm. Yeah.
Right? And so I think, so part of it was, okay, let's get real with yourself. Let's get real. How am I in my own way? So that's again like when I accessed support through therapy. There were some relationships too that just changed and looked different, that because I think relationships of all kind need to be reciprocal relationships. And so some of the friendships maybe that I had that had a really awesome space in my life at one time maybe weren't the right friendship for me moving forward.
Mhm.
And so I think you do a bit of a like taking stock of, when I'm moving into this next chapter of my life, what's coming with me? And sometimes just grows organically too. It grows organically as we change. Then our energy and the people we have within our realm can change as well.
Yeah.
So really getting in tune with what is it that I need? What are my weaknesses that I need to really look at? And do I need to, might be my weakness and my strength, but how is it holding me back? And so how can I give to myself so I can give to others and that I can be fully present, that I can be fully authentic? So
Mm.
I think that was the first thing, is that really starting to do some work on myself that mattered and was important and that needed to be done.
Wow.
And then part of it is about your fear of, or my fear around being all of a sudden in a new relationship where I hadn't been for a long time. And how do you navigate through this and how do you trust? So part of my personal issues were about trusting. And so fortunately I had somebody who Scott is also in the therapeutic field, and just who he is as a person was able to really hold me in a space of security, of like, I'm here and I can hold your emotions. I can hold this stuff. And you test that and you test that and you test that, because that's scary too.
Yeah.
Finally having what you want can be really scary as well. And so you continue to do that work. And as you continue to go through that with somebody that can hold you well and that is a secure place, that allows you to be able to then feel okay, let your breath out in your personal space and in your practice, in the space when you're working with women, to be able to say, well, you know what? I do get it because I've been there.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole wisdom that comes from that, and I think that that's why it's like, I mean, it's perfect. I think what you do, you come with, obviously so many credentials and like a beautiful expertise with that experience. I mean, I think that that's really, really powerful in terms of being able to guide women or support them. And I love what you said about like learning to be authentic, and while we crave connection, finding it within ourselves and then maybe others. And I think that that's a huge thing, is that when we are being stretched into this new chapter, it is hard on our nervous system too, because a lot of things around us start to change, our relationships, the way of
Right.
being, and and so how did you, body-based kind of wise, how did you support yourself in those times when it did feel really stretchy, and there's a lot of grief involved in different capacities. How did you support yourself in those times?
So I love to swim. I love water.
Mm.
I feel like water is, I mean, we had a pool growing up. I love the ocean. I love the lakes. I have learned that when I need to regulate myself, I think even being close to the water or getting in the water. So we have a pool that we utilize. I go to the ocean. I always say to Scott, we have to go like 6 times or every 6 weeks. Um, I think about like sensory, how that's where I regulate myself, is through water, through journaling. I've started, journaling. I started journaling every day. I created a gratitude journal. And just really, also, I think gratitude is so important, about
Mhm,
what is it that we are grateful for? What can we bring into our realm? What is it that we have right now that we're grateful for?
mhm,
And
mhm.
authenticity, I feel, isn't something we arrive at. It's something we practice, right? It's in the micro moments. Um, so it's still evolving for me. It's still evolving for me, but I try and then connect with people that I know can just hear me. Sometimes I think that we really need to know that we can be heard as well, because when we're listening to other people's stories a lot, it's important that we have people that hear us
Yeah,
and see us. And I think that most people just want to know, like, that they're heard and that they matter and that they're seen. And so really tapping into those people that I know are there for me to do that, I make sure that I connect with them.
yeah. Yeah, that is a great point, and I know that, like, I mean, Dr. Pasaler is one of my, favorite kind of researchers or somebody who talks a lot about the nervous system. She wrote How to Heal Your Nervous System. She says there are four pillars to regulating your nervous system. She talks about mind, body, spirit, and community. And the importance of
Yeah.
you cannot regulate your nervous system, especially like on a good day, but especially when you're experiencing any type of grief or pain, you cannot regulate your nervous system without that community, without somebody who like fully sees you and can support
Yeah.
you in that way. And so I think I always say like first things first, who are your people and
Yes.
finding them and who
Yeah.
allow you to be authentic. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Mhm. Mhm.
Yeah.
Oh, I just yeah, I mean, I've had the honor of experiencing how you support people through very, very challenging times, and it really is so magical, and when you're describing, allowing somebody to see you and hear you, I know that you were very much that for me, and so I'm so excited that so many women around the world now get to experience your wisdom and get to be held by you in your coaching programs now. It really is wonderful.
Thank you, Cynthia. And I think it's incredible what you've done going after what you were really, really passionate about and you're making it happen. I just love your story. And so you're a perfect example about what can happen when you tap into your passion and what it is that you really want for you, and that you
Mhm,
know that you can help other people as a result of what resonates with you and your passion. So
mhm.
I'm really happy for you that you're doing you made it happen, and I think that's incredible.
Well,
Yeah.
thank you, and like you said, I thank you, and I appreciate it so much, and I had the support. I had the support, and your support team's gonna be so key, in finding the tools, like building the toolbox like you were describing, that's gonna be helpful for you. For me, it was very much dance. It was very much like, my community, that I had at the time, and then learning, adding to my toolbox, like, just play with
Right.
it, like, maybe you've never
Yeah.
tried art therapy before, and you're like, "Let me just
Oh,
try
yeah.
it," like, just play with it and see if you like it with 0 attachment to the outcome, just
Yeah.
exploring, because I think the more tools we can have in our toolbox, the better.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I've been kind of comparing it to a closet. Like, you
Yeah.
wanna have the winter clothes, you also wanna have the summer clothes, and you're gonna need different things for different seasons of life, and the more you can just
Yeah.
kind of pack it, with tools that you know are helpful for you and
Absolutely.
even authentic to the things that you need and the way that you clear energy and heal and
Right.
store emotion, things like that.
Right. Right.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so, so much, Sheila. Where can you tell us where can we find you and how can somebody maybe, touch base with you if they were interested in maybe joining one of your programs?
Absolutely. Absolutely. People can reach out to me at SheilaO'Donovan.com is my website. And then my email address is linked there. I am on Instagram at Sheila O'Donovan. And I am on Facebook under Sheila O'Donovan. Yetman is my married name. And so please reach out to me if you want to connect. I'd be happy, to speak to anybody about anything that we spoke about today.
I love that. Thank you so much. And we'll also link it in the information so we'll link your website and all of your information so that they can reach you. Thank you so much. What an honor to have you here today. And I have a feeling it won't be the last one, but definitely make sure to check out her programs, especially if you're you know firsthand if you're going through a separation or something like that. Sheila is incredible and can really support you and can also support you in terms of navigating parenting as you go through these transitions. So hang in there. We love you guys so much, and we will see you next time.